All right, good evening. I'll call the meeting for the Well Springs Unified Union School District to order at 6 o'clock. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First up is to approve the agenda with the addition of an executive session for the purpose of student records, academic records. So if there is no objection to that, for that executive session, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by George. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. General public comment. Is there anyone online tonight who wishes to speak? All right. Consent agenda. There's a lot in the consent agenda. Is there any discussion or questions on the consent agenda? We have the minutes from March 12th, 19th, and 25th. Warrants 390 and 392. And then, of course, contract recommendations and resignations. If not, we'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda with I guess the addition of to accept the resignation with regret.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Motion by George. Discussion again. All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Motion carries unanimously. On to finance. This is not with us tonight, but if anyone have any questions regarding the monthly reports?
Maybe this is the first question. How many extra students did we have that caused the 159,000?
I don't think anything has to be on that. There's office there. So
Okay,
I can chat it right now and see who's available.
it's not critical. I just, it's nice to know that number.
We can add that information for next week.
Yeah, that was kind of my question. Is that that's the full amount? That 159,000 is the over budgeted amount for? Okay.
The 9 students, maybe?
Okay.
Yes, maybe 8.
I guess it depends what school.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a concern based on our previous facilities committee meeting is that we have a stand-up freezer here in the Wells kitchen that is kaput. According to the service tech, cannot be repaired, and perhaps we'd want to consider using some of the surplus in the report there to account for a new stand-up freezer.
Okay. How much?
Quick, without, Ernest is going to work on getting some quotes, but I think we're talking on the order of 7,000 or 8,000.
Yeah, that would be like top of the line.
And we don't want to get, we want to get something that'll last, of course.
Um, and then all the maintenance, I thought I saw in here, all the maintenance lines were, so basically there's nothing left in the,
I don't know what where they stand right now. There is another project that, Ernest is getting quotes on to repair the foundation here outside the 4 or 5 classroom. And that's going to be another 8 or 9,000. It's got one quote of 8.5 and then another one coming in.
but, yeah, it says anticipated, so I think I think that would be, yeah. I don't see an issue with it, but I think, if, I mean, especially if there's a need, is it, you said it was one freezer?
Yeah. They have a chest freezer downstairs that's being used, but, those are not optimal to pack and withdraw the oldest and stuff like that. But there was always a need for 2, right?
Yes.
Now they're down to 1.
Okay. Amanda?
Weren't there 2 upstairs and now we have 1 chest downstairs? So are there 2 that need to be replaced?
Just, go ahead, Carol, I'm sorry.
Just the one that's upstairs in the kitchen needs to be replaced.
Okay, sorry. I thought that we needed to replace 2. So I just wanted to confirm while we were discussing it that it was everything that was needed.
Yeah. Anyone else? I mean, I think, in my opinion, if, obviously it's a need, I mean, we have 2 freezers, and if there is a surplus, I would say a projected surplus, because we really don't know what it's going to be at the end, but, you know, if, you know, I also kind of think it's, I guess, outside the scope also of, you know, of our, what's that?
Is it the scope of capital improvement?
You know, I think if it's not, a certain amount of dollars are coming out of the capital maintenance fund, then, I don't know. We're talking about, the freezer.
But while the quotes are being, solicited, do we want to maybe make this a agenda item for next month? And we're not making a decision tonight on the surplus that we don't even know the final size.
And is everything good to go until we get that purchase, or is that something that you need sooner than later? We're making it work. Go.
Amanda?
Could we approve something tonight with like a top dollar amount so that they don't have to wait another month? Like tell Carol if they find one under X number of dollars, we approve, but if it's over X number of dollars, we'll discuss it in May. I mean, I don't know. I just wonder about making them wait a whole nother month when then to order something and have it delivered, we might not have it until summer. It's already April.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it might be good for, you said Ernest was getting quotes and stuff like that.
To do that.
You know, because it's hard to gauge exactly what it's going to cost, and it would kind of suck to say, yeah, go ahead and, you know, here's this much, but then not know exactly what it's going to come to. So, maybe it would be better just to have it on the agenda and then wait to find out exactly what it's going to cost. Anyone else? Questions, comments? objections?
Are you saying to continue to put it on May's agenda or the finance committee agenda?
It would be the May agenda.
Do we have any idea how long it takes to receive something? Like, we're not just ordering a house freezer. So we can't, I'm just concerned about the timing of ordering and receiving. I mean, some of these things can take 6 weeks. So if we're pushing it a month and then we got 6 weeks, school's over.
I don't know, I kind of, it's really kind of up to our administrators, the necessity of timeline. That would be my opinion.
Well, the only thing I would tell you is that one of the things that we utilize the freezer for at the end of the year is to be able to prep for the pie at the fair, which if we do not have it here, we're going to be making 150 pies. They'll be fresh.
The end of what? End of June, July?
Normally, we have the kids do some of them, and we have started to prep, and the freezer is full before we leave for summer. So we usually do them throughout May and June.
All right, and I guess we need board approval to basically use these surplus funds.
Correct. It's the administration is asking you surplus funds to purchase this freezer, and yes, it will have to for a certain percentage or portion of this.
Okay.
And then what they'd like to do for us is surplus. If they were going to use just global funds, our budget, they do that.
Yeah, and yeah, that's kind of what I thought earlier, but I think it's projected that those lines would be spent, in the forecast. So, I guess that answers that question. So I don't know. Yeah, what's the pleasure of the board? I mean,
I would be okay with, I think George had said, we could sort of create an allowance, and if it's under that allowance, it would work. I mean, I don't know how to price out commercial freezers.
So Chris had found a place that sells commercial freezers, and I mean, top of the line would be like, but a lot of them are around $4,000 with free shipping, but they ship from Tennessee. So.
And then it would purchase also include installation, warranty, things.
I mean, I haven't looked, I'm being honest, I haven't looked that far. I'm thinking coming from Tennessee, I'm not installation.
Right. I just don't want to say, okay, we're going to give you 5,000, all of a sudden you find out after.
Right.
That there's extra fees.
Absolutely.
You have to come down on the extra money.
Right.
yeah, Amanda suggested a certain amount, not to exceed X amount of dollars.
And there are a lot of options that are like $4,000 right in that area.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that sounds reasonable to me. And then it's not waiting for a month if Ernest comes back or you come back and you're just like, we found one and next week,
I just want to say, I share that site just for reference. So it's not
Yes,
just that.
I mean, no, we can look at other.
Have to get the best place in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Or just have an idea of the cost of what we're looking at. So
Yep.
I'm sure there are
Because
closer.
there's Steigers in Rutland,
Yes.
which is wholesale.
Right. Just more just quickly pull it up to have an idea of what that costs
Okay.
for person style freezer.
all right.
Kind of like,
So it sounds like general agreement, but what about a price, Amanda?
Would this be the same style freezer we have currently or a different style freezer with a different plan?
we haven't really looked into them that much, so I don't want to say like this is what we're gonna do.
But you want an upright versus
We do want to know,
yes.
right? Yeah. A chest freezer just makes it really difficult.
Yeah, so yeah, I think for the purpose of the conversation, like you know, I think we're just gonna be kind of doing a best guess on an amount that we'll authorize to spend of the surplus funds. So if you think, you know, ballpark, $4 to $5 grand, but depending on the make and model, you know, maybe, you know, 6 or 8, I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, you know, not to exceed, you know.
Would everybody be comfortable with 7,500 as a max?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So I'll make a motion that we, the board authorize spending of not more than $7,500 for the purchase of a new upright freezer for Wells Village.
All right, motion by George. Any further discussion? Amanda?
Sorry, no.
Yeah, do we know it's upright, or does that limit you to say freezer?
Oh,
Upright is what went.
Right.
It's no longer working, and that's what he's gonna
That is what we want to do.
seek a quote on.
Then that's
Oh.
He's
fine.
gonna seek a
Yeah,
quote on.
yeah.
all right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That's unanimous. All right. All right, thank you. All right, on to superintendent's report.
Thanks, Eric. There are two items, bullet here that I just want to quickly review. I'm going to discuss the second bullet first. It's a bit quicker. So in the board resource folder, I placed this in the March folder as well, was a draft of a board communication survey. This is kind of the culmination of the school budget communication plan that was developed this year. So if there are no concerns or no input, then what we'll do is we'll format to like a Google form, and we'll work with our tech department on getting this sent out to our community members, our staffers, stakeholders. That's what that takes. From that, we can work with you on as well as the link that you could share out in your weekly communication as well. So that would be done the last week after April. I always thought that, you know, somebody may be going away for spring break, it's done. So the last week, the first week of May, right before the end of the school year. And then we got open for a bit, and then we share the information back. So the second, actually first, but the second thing I'd like to discuss around GRCS, we board member training. So this year, the Vermont School Board Association sent out kind of an update on around new board member training. And as we looked at the district quality standards, and I know Eric has done a lot of work on this for both local and state levels, so he's a bit of an expert on the DQS. I can tell you how it's gone from infancy to where it's at now, but we looked at how we could really kind of kill two birds with one stone in case where what we wanted to do was provide a more robust orientation and training for our board members. I know in the past we've had a meeting, then it was kind of having a document, and then it was kind of asking questions, you know, move along, which for some people that worked, for others it wasn't as great as we thought. And so we wanted to do something a little better this year. And so what we were going to do is hold monthly meetings prior to the GRCSU board meeting, so like 5 o'clock. And these will be recorded. So if someone can't make it, they can always view it at another time. All materials that we present will also be shared in our board folders. But we took the BSBA had this like this document that listed a large number of bullet points of items that should be considered discussed. Laid it out from A, through basically beginning to pay. Just topics that would be kind of covered. It was supposed to be a short 45 minutes intro conversation, but as we had a conversation, we thought we'd open up to all board members as well. Because there are some items that maybe of particular interest. I know that the first thing we're taking a look at is just around the the flow of a meeting, the organization of meetings, just Robert through those small boards, just, basically how motion works and what the correct language is. And, I know that in the past, like if people are, abstaining from a vote, not sustaining from a vote. So just make sure we're using, correct verbiage, in our meetings. Open meeting law is always one that we tend to have unintentional, situation around open meeting law, particularly around emails and communication and, but also reviewing just if, say, say 3 or 4 board members are at a community event and someone walks up and asks, say, what's going on with school consolidation? And the 4 of you, engage in a conversation around that with that individual, while it may seem harmless, does that violate open meeting law? So there's certain scenarios and things will kind of lay out and work through, but it will, I think, help us better when we have to test or sign off on the district quality standards that we have a more robust training. So you're concerned about that's been a part of this as well.
Yeah, no, so, we talked about this through the executive committee, and I think there's a very in-depth plan around, a lot of the key components that boards deal with. And I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity to, engage and learn from other board members and, just really establish best practices. And, again, it also does align with DQS, especially, through the protocols and board governance, because how we guess manage ourselves and govern ourselves, really has a true impact, especially on, the effectiveness of meetings. So, and the executive committee, supported it all the way. So.
Are there any questions about either of those items? So the last, I know that we are in the middle of, it's a bit chaotic, the field of education, on a federal level, on a state level, and on a local level. I know that most of us have seen around H454, which has been moving through the House. I do believe it'll move through the House Appropriations by the end of this week. We don't know what's going to happen at that. There might be with amendments, and obviously it has to go to the Senate. I don't want to spend too much time, covering that because we know that there will still be a lot of alterations on changes. I think, we do know that Governor Scott has made it very clear that he wants a map of the state of Vermont. He wants lines to be drawn. By the way, 4 has asked the governor to move the December 1st deadline, so a committee to be formed that really takes into account like Senator Ronnegart's proposal. So they're on the table on the side. Is there a better way to do this? And so in December, we would adopt a map that we feel has been more closely vetted and more closely looked at as opposed to throwing together last minutes. So obviously there are things that, this board, it's on to class size. I know they with 4 and others are really start to outline the minimum class size and what that would look like. And I know that's and the impact it will have on Middletown Springs and Ball Village and, what that school looks like next year and the following years. Also around tuition, school choice. So there are things that we just need to stay abreast on. I will continue to update you as I get new information. But I think one of the big things is that I don't want to overreact to something when we understand that it still has a long way to go. But I think it's important just to make sure that when VSBA provides an update, take a look at that. Or if you have any questions, obviously feel free to reach out about any of this stuff. I know that's I'll just get that very question. There's a lot of stuff I can talk about, but I know we have a lot of things too.
Yeah. Yeah. Any questions? Okay. Thank you. All right. We'll move on to principal reports.
All right, so at Middletown, our fifth and sixth graders have been attending Starbase. We were a little uncertain about the funding. We were guaranteed the first 2 weeks of the 5-week program, and we are happy to report that Starbase was able to receive enough funds to, I believe, finish out the whole school year, but at least our 5 weeks. So the students have been traveling with Mr. Carlson over to Rutland Town, and they are on these activities. They first week they did the egg drop, designed the saved egg. They built rocket straws, rockets. And they were working robots this past week. And then of course, like the big culminating event is they get to build rockets and launch them. So it's been a few years since Middletown was participating in that program, so we were excited to bring it back to students this year. As you know, because Carol and I talk about it quite often, both Middletown and Wells have been reading a comic book, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, and we finished reading last Thursday was our last reading assignment. Students were able to participate in daily trivia questions at Middletown. As classes answered questions, they earned points that they could trade in. So once they got to 10 points, they could trade them in for stickers. At 20 points, they got little 3D printed dragons. Then over the past 2 weeks, classes have been trading in their points for lunch fees with me. And then if they reached the 37 points, which I think was the maximum they could earn, then they get extra recess, which every class at Middletown was able to earn, which was excellent. So next week, I will be taking classes outside for extra recess, and teachers, because they participated too, they get that extra 30 minutes duty free so that they get a little something too. We are currently in the middle of BitCap testing. We have some classes that have wrapped up. We have some classes that are in the midst of wrapping up. And then certainly our fifth graders have the most testing because in addition to math and ELA, they also have science. So they are starting to take the science assessment and should be wrapped up by the time we head into break. And then Mr. Carlson has been hard at work planning our annual sixth grade trip to Boston. We decided to alter the trip a little bit this year. In the past, it's been 4 days, 3 nights, and we decided to shorten it. So the students are going to be traveling to Boston. They'll be going for 2 days and 1 night. Their first day is always in Plymouth. They have many events that are included with the package that we purchased, including dinner, and then they camp out. And then day 2, they will head into Boston and they'll see some of the sites. The students will have some say over what they visit. Oftentimes they go to the Science Museum, the aquarium, they'll do a walking tour, including part of the Freedom Trail. So Mr. Carlson is talking with his students about what they're interested in doing down in Boston. And then I think the final thing is we have set our graduation date for our sixth graders. We will be hosting graduation on the evening of Monday, June 16th. We would love to have a school board member join us up front to shake hands with our sixth graders as they graduate.
Awesome. What's a Golden Dome competition for 5th and 6th grade?
Yeah, so the Golden Dome books, I believe it used to be the Dorothy Canfield Fisher books, and it's since been renamed over the last few years. So the 5th and 6th graders throughout GRCSU read books from this list. The books are selected by the state of Vermont. So they read books and then they all get together and it's a trivia game that they have a team from each school. And they answer questions about the books that they've read. So this is the second annual one that the librarians throughout GRCSU have planned. And this year, but we were not able to make it last year as administrator, but I believe this year it is on our calendar to get there. I think the kids will do it last year. It's a nice way to get together with other schools.
Yeah. And
some big readers. So.
Yeah. And then it says GRCSU Field Day.
Yeah, so another wonderful initiative. So this all tied back to our Portrait of a Graduate and also finding opportunities to bring our students back, finding opportunities for our students to get together. And so our PE teachers have been spending time planning an event for all sixth graders to get together. They get together at, I live right down the Northwood Pool Park. And they will enjoy a day of field day activities, games, things like that. So it's just another way for them to get out of the school and to interact throughout the SU.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is that the first year doing this?
This will be the first year for the field day.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, and you said where they go for that?
Northwood Park.
Yeah.
So right up the road from.
Yep. That's amazing. That's cool. Okay, I'm done asking you questions. Anyone else have any questions for?
I'll put in a plug too. Strawberry Jam 5K and 10K this year. There is a 10K this year. June 14th registration is open, so please join us.
Is it over the right time for the wood?
Yeah.
They're easy courses. So. Okay. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
So at health testing, we're hoping that we're going to be finished by the end of this week. We have a few students that might have to do a little bit of makeup, but the idea is for it to come back Friday. We did just close our book fair, and our sales did exceed the $2,000, so that we will have the big fair again in the fall, which is really nice. They're going to pick it up tomorrow. But we were really excited to be able to have that many sales of books, and our teachers were able to benefit from that. Each classroom makes a wish list, and I think that Lisa Madison does a lot of the work with it, and I think that she was able to provide a lot of what the teachers wished for. They were able to get from the fair and the sales. We actually as well have set the sixth grade graduation date, and we are going to be doing it on that Monday as well in the evening. Basically, the decision came from the fact that we do have a board meeting the Wednesday before, and they do bingo here on Thursdays, so they would really frown upon us taking up that much part on that evening. So we kind of said, we'll move to Monday. Our sixth grade did a couple of fundraisers at our book fair, and they are still in looking at planning their trip. They're not fully set on exactly what they are planning to do. We're looking to set our spring concert date. Have we set yours yet? I know that Carol came in and we were looking for a date, so that's still up in the air for us. And then part of one of the initiatives through the Agency of Education, the Vermont Reads Project, we had a team of teachers here that had started, and we were participating in that, working on coaching, and funding got pulled earlier this week, and we had a meeting last week, and we had on Tuesday that we were working with, and they are very hopeful that they will get enough funding to work with our teachers to the end of this year, at least. It was supposed to go for a full year. And when we talked about, Corey and I have talked a lot about in the absence part of our, how many absences we have, how many unfilled. One of the things that ends up happening, and I thought it was kind of interesting to look at, is I put in the number of the absences that we have monthly that are, it says not needed for a sub, but we still need to kind of fill those positions in a lot of ways. It would be our custodian, and those jobs still need to be done. So that's just another way that I think hopefully you understand that we end up stepping in for those kinds of positions. And then of course, on Friday, we are busing K through 6 to Middletown Springs, and we have 3 trophies Mr. Montagnon has designed. There are medals for the winning teams as well. We have a few other surprises of things that students will do a couple of raffles, we'll do a couple of drawings. And I think Probably the nicest part of this is that students have truly enjoyed the book. We've had guest readers and they're really excited, already talking about what are we going to do next year. So I think it's been a really positive experience for everybody. And we even have a Middletown parent or para-educator who has opted to be on the Wells Village school team. So there's a little more animosity going on, but we're excited. And I think students are very excited about the competition, and it should just be a lot of fun. Rutland Herald is coming, so I think we're getting some really great publicity for this, and the kids will be excited. And we have put an invite out to all of our parents. So
Cool.
9 o'clock on
Friday
Friday.
morning.
We'll have there.
Yes.
If you don't have anything else going on, if you're purple or blue, we'll know where your alliance is.
yes, it's so welcome.
I miss her cats.
It's fall.
Sounds like fun.
You guys talked about, I think in the last meeting, potentially hiring someone that would kind of volley between Wells and Middletown to fill those substitute positions.
Yes.
I know I always bring it up. Did you have any success in finding a candidate or?
We have.
Okay, great.
And it has actually been working out. He's very flexible, different schedule, 2 weeks at a time.
Okay, great.
He's open to us saying, oh, we need you here tomorrow. So it has, I think it's been working out great.
Okay, great.
Okay, and any other questions? All right, was your hand raised, Meredith, or you just?
No, I just think that easy.
All right. Okay, on to chairman's report. So, just really quick, I put in the drive, some information, from the Rural, School Community Alliance, so folks can see, exactly what the Alliance is doing, the initiatives, the membership update on the towns represented by either select boards or school districts. And of course, the work plan, they have hired a lobbyist, and there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. Even this week, and Meredith can attest to a lot of the emails that are coming forth, especially around H4 54. And as Chris had said, there's potential changes, and we don't know where it's going to end up. But I think the advocacy with the alliances was definitely a good choice, especially in support of the schools, the small schools for the town. So, and I don't know if anyone had any questions about it. I just kind of wanted to share that.
Yeah, I think the Alliance submitted testimony to the Senate Education Committee this week. So if anybody's interested, it was pretty interesting to just listen in. They had a few different principals and superintendents from the surrounding areas. So just platforming their idea and how they came together.
Yeah, and I wanted to share, if I can find it really quick, an email that I got at 5. What's that?
I was gonna, that's what I was gonna speak to. So.
Did you want to go ahead and?
No, go ahead.
I gotta find it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you have it. I was just gonna read the whole thing.
This is about their effectiveness.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was Margaret's update. Hold on, still looking for it. What's that?
The emails to you.
Can't find it. Hold on. I thought it said, update. It was from Margaret, but.
Got the urgent update.
Maybe it was an urgent update. I don't know.
I think it was at 8:44, if that helps you. If it's the same one,
Oh, here it is.
I think.
Okay, I found it. Okay. Yeah, here, I'll just read this out loud. Our work in support of the amendments to H 454 have been having an impact throughout the day. The speaker had informed House Education Chair Conlon that he needed to meet and negotiate an amendment with Dave and Herb to, related to their amendments. Our work has given Herb and Dave more power to force this negotiation. As a result of the negotiation, Herb and Dave will withdraw their amendments from the calendar. In the place of those amendments, Chair Conlon will propose an amendment with the following language below. While this is not everything, it may seem insufficient regarding what we wanted changed in H 454. This is more than we would have got from opposing floor amendments that failed to pass. We will end work in the House with no Section 8 included in this language inserted. Instead, we have made a difference. Not as great different as we would have liked, but a difference nonetheless. Meanwhile, our testimony yesterday in Senate Education has reverberated around the State House today, and it is clear we are gaining power and support as we move through the State House, all with your help. We are convening a work group on Friday of key individuals to contribute to the development of an alternate proposal to both the governor's plan and H 454. We are doing this at the request of Senate Education, who are making plans to discuss and support the development of our work into legal language. And this was the part I liked is we are no longer tinkering and trying to adjust legislative language developed by others, such as VSA or VSBA. We are proposing and seeking positive response from Senate Ed to put our policy ideas for rural communities and their children into law. We are marching forward and stepping up to do our very best for all of us in the future of schooling in rural Vermont. Thank you for all having the confidence in the Alliance to make a difference and for making this work seen and heard throughout the State House. So, just for some context, there were amendments proposed. There was a bill that was submitted, H 180 around school closures, that didn't make it anywhere. And Herb Olson was the author. And so there's a lot of stuff going on, just to add context to that email. But I think importantly that, it's apparent that the Alliance has a voice and that, I like the idea of, now, coming up with a plan instead of just, trying to make amendments and changes to what has been proposed. But anyway.
I've been impressed that, especially this week, they've been recognized by, I think, both committees as bringing forward evidence-based research on rural school closures and mergers, and that are really relevant to the state of Vermont, which was not really previously in any of the plans.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so if no one has any other questions on Amanda?
Sorry, the only other thing I would add to that statement in this whole discussion is I would encourage anyone to reach out to Chris Pritchard. I had a conversation with him this morning as well. I think it's important for everyone to know that he is on our side and willing to listen to all of us. And so, yeah, I would encourage anybody to reach out to him as well in the coming days.
Yep.
I just had something quickly. I know we talked about the letter that Meta sent, and I'm just wondering if the board responded or if he responded or if there
Yeah,
was
that was my next.
Okay, sorry. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I just, if no one had any questions about the Alliance, I was gonna, that's exactly what I was
Thank
gonna
you.
bring up next.
Yeah.
So I did reach out to, by email to Julie Mack, the chair of Meadowy School District. She did respond and say that they are meeting next week, and asked if there were any proposed dates or any days that, you know, are non-starters. And, you know, my response was that, well, we're meeting before you, so I can ask the board, at this meeting, what people, feel about dates and time, you know, for this meeting. Any particular days that don't work. So, and that's basically the update. I mean,
Oh, okay.
that was the extent of
Great.
our exchange.
Okay.
And then, other than that, I think once we settle on a date, Julie and I would meet to formulate an agenda.
Did they offer any dates or?
No,
Is there?
they're going to meet next week.
Okay.
So yeah,
To say, isn't it, I guess, not a violation of open meeting law? We are talking over email about scheduling.
yeah,
So
that's correct.
if we can't figure it out in this meeting, we can take this to email and find a date for everybody.
Yeah, well, we could do that. And, you know, my thought is we're meeting before their meeting, so just bring it up in the meeting. And
Sure.
if, you know, if folks don't know, or, you know, I think, you know, the next step would be, if we can settle on, I would say maybe a timeline, any certain days that work, don't work, right? I would forward those to, Ms. Mack, and then, if she says, well, these days don't work, but what about these? Then I would email the board, to schedule further dates. Amanda?
The only real days in April that I would not be available are next week. It would be the 15th and 16th. So I'm not sure that those dates would affect them. But I would request that we meet at 6 o'clock or after if possible. I do not get home until about 10 of 6. So it would be hard with cell service around here for me to attend in person or virtually before 6 o'clock.
Yeah. And I'm not sure, but, you know, we typically have this, hybrid meeting set up. And that's something that her and I haven't talked about. I don't believe they do. I believe they just record their meetings as per open meeting law. I'm not 100% sure, so that might be something else too. This could potentially just be an in-person only meeting.
You're technically supposed to have virtual options available.
Okay.
So like this meeting, we all in person, still would have to have virtual if somebody.
Okay. All right.
And location, would it be at our school or theirs? Did she have a preference?
Nope, didn't say. They're gonna talk about it next week.
If we have the equipment to do virtual, maybe it's better if we invite them to our school.
Sure.
They have equipment to do virtual.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could all be virtual.
I'd rather be in person.
Yeah, I'd rather be in
Yeah.
person. I mean, I think that's where the hybrid, just allows for that flexibility. Okay, so definitely hybrid. And as far as location, no one has any specific preference. So if they wanted to meet there, would anybody object to that? Okay. And
I
then,
wouldn't object, but I would maybe encourage them to meet us at our location, if possible.
okay. Yeah, I don't particularly care where we meet, and Meadowy's like 3 minutes up the road. Okay, and then dates, like I said, they're meeting, I think, next Monday. So probably, let's see, the week after that is break, right? So then, so how does, are there any days that don't work for anyone?
Are you talking about the week of the 28th?
The week next, geez, next week might be too quick of a turnaround. I don't know. But, because I don't know what's gonna work for them. So are there any days that,
In general, don't we?
don't work next week? Or that would work next week?
I can't do, Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna meet, like I said, I think on the 14th, and so I would imagine if, you know, if we,
Thursdays, there's tentative negotiations.
did you say Thursday?
Yeah, 17th.
Yeah, do we have a negotiation?
That was the date. That was
Is that,
the 17th.
Yeah,
yes, we have negotiations, so.
okay, never mind then. Yeah, so I kind of think, because I was gonna say like the 16th or 17th, but that might be too quick of a turnaround. So probably if no one wants to meet over break, which probably doesn't make sense, the following week, which would be 28th, 29th, 30th.
Those are all good for me.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
Should we just see what they say and meet and then come back with dates
well, I
or?
want to give her something. I don't want
Yeah.
to be like,
Okay.
We don't know.
we talked about it, but we don't
Yeah,
know.
right.
I could only do the 28th. Yeah, I could only do the 28th that week.
Is there a policy meeting that week?
No, that's in May. Amanda?
The age is a possible negotiation day.
Oh my gosh.
What about the 16th?
Um,
I know it's a short turnaround for them.
I mean, I could do the 16th.
I can do the 16th.
I can't do the 16th, but that's okay. Like if it works for everybody else, I don't want to be the only person. But is there a reason, like, even though it's April break, think, are we assuming they will be out of town potentially, or
I think
are
some people are
maybe just steering away because it's break from school?
I don't know. I mean, if folks are willing to meet that week, I mean,
I'm not opposed to break week. I don't know how everybody else feels. But it would give them a little more time rather than 2 days after their meeting. I don't know.
yeah, I think it would be a challenge to, like, if we're gonna meet at a school and there's no one in the school,
right.
I don't know. Now that I think about it, it's probably not a good idea, so. Okay. So this potentially the 16th.
What about the 18th? That Friday?
Is that Good Friday?
That is Good Friday.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
Sad?
There might be some people.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So maybe the 16th, the following week, it's a break. So, okay, so what about second week in May? So 5th, 7th, 8th, 9th.
Those are all good.
So 5th, 7th, 8th.
Tuesday or Mondays are bad for me, but again, if that's what's best for everybody,
Mondays just don't work for you at all, or?
not without doing a lot of changing around.
Okay, no, that's fine, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify. So what about the 7th? That's a Wednesday. The
That's
8th?
May
Works
7th.
Yeah, May 7th or 8th.
That's May 7th is a possible negotiation day.
I don't have it in my calendar, so.
I put them all in.
Five or eight.
Okay, so what about the 8th?
I out of town.
All right. Mondays, what about the 13th? Mondays don't work for Amanda. The 13th?
Awesome.
Okay. So 5:13. All right, we'll start there. I mean, we're going to be looking at June here soon. And then, I'll let everyone know, what she says and, but yeah,
You're still going to include April 16th and 18th?
yeah, 16th, 18th is Good Friday.
Right. So
So,
16th.
yeah, that's,
Or Friday, May 2nd?
I won't be around.
Okay.
That week sucks. Okay,
That's a good start.
it's a start. Yeah, I mean, between break and all those negotiations. All right, that settles it. All right. That's all I have. And then we'll move on to, facility committee update.
Okay, in your packet, there's a couple of templates, one for an agenda for our meeting and one for an update. That's a result of the meeting that I'll present to the board that night. So following that list down, long-term maintenance and project plan, we have a capital maintenance plan that's due by the May meeting. The principals and the facilities director are going to meet to update our plans. Personnel, we have one full-time staff in each school, plus we have the facilities director. For old business, PCB testing, the window for Middletown Springs actually was supposed to open on July 1. Chris has informed me that he's contacted Senator Weeks for an update about this. Funds are low. It's kind of low priority with everything else going on in Montpelier right now.
For just clarifying, I contacted Evan Pendleton, who is the Director of Environmental Conservation, who oversees this. I have spoken with Senator Weeks about
Right.
concerns with the lack of funds and what that means, as well as if this were to sunset or to go away, what sort of communication can we give to communities about this and who's that going to come from? So I just want
Okay, sorry.
Senator Weeks doesn't really have much information.
I was- yeah. No, I was going to get to that, but I wanted to let everybody know that you have reached out. And basically the one thing they have said is money for air testing's dried up and the board is perfectly capable of going on and spending our own money to do air testing. So not good news on that. No news on state funding or grants at this point. Contracts, we discussed the control tech contracts for both schools. They're concerned about the expense on that. Ernest and Chris, Ernest, our facilities director, and Chris will be attending a facilities directors meeting soon. And we'll see about leveraging some of the services of Greater Rutland County and any other tie-ins that might help us save money. As far as new business, at Wells Village School, we've got a drainage issue in the 4-5 classroom. It's going to require digging down and repairing the foundation outside that classroom. We've already received one bid for 8.5 thousand, and another bid is coming. Also, security cameras are working at Wells Village School. There's an ongoing process to install speakers for emergency purposes throughout the building, so everyone can be notified in case of an emergency. We've discussed the need for an upright freezer, and quotes are being solicited for that. We pre-approved an amount to go up to. At Middletown Springs, there's an ongoing septic problem in the special ed room. This is due to old piping leading outside. Part of that pipe had been replaced under the driveway, but apparently the section to that from the building is the culprit, and a quote is being sought to address that problem. Of course, that can't be dug up until the end of the school year. Future agenda items will be tracking the septic problem at Middletown Springs, progress on the freezer for Wells Village School, and speakers also at the same school. Any other agenda items that anybody can bring up, just let me know for the next meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for July 9th. If need be, we can always have a facilities committee meeting prior to that to discuss any ongoing or new projects. If there's any questions, let me know now. And
Yeah, since we have, since now that we have a new facility director, is he going to, or has he like reviewed the 5-year plan that we had? Like,
that's what the meeting, the long-term, the meeting between the principals and he, and as far as the money issues, they may have to bring Lewis in, but they're going to be updating that plan, hopefully, so it's ready for next month's meeting.
okay, cool.
He's been getting up to speed up till now, so now it's time to do that.
Cool. Yeah, I was just curious because I know, the plan that we have was done a while back when Scott was, and I thought, we have a new person, and if he wasn't familiar or privy to that whole process, it'd be a good opportunity to like reevaluate it. And that's kind of why I asked. But yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And I think, all these additional issues that are coming up in both schools doesn't really help to the situation either, between capital maintenance and the money,
Yeah.
And so I guess I did have a question, and I was saving it about the freezer. So how old was that freezer? Was that freezer just like really, really old? Yeah.
It's not, and I will check to tell you exactly how old it is, but I believe the last servicing came out in 2020. They talked about it not being in a place where it's properly ventilated. And so it kind of burned itself out.
Oh,
I know. And so that's why we're saying, like, in the replacement, it won't be put back in the kitchen.
Right.
Like to put it downstairs.
yeah. Yeah, such a small space. Okay.
Yeah, and it's the piece that's tucked in the corner.
And then the drainage issue out there, I went to the school the other day and I saw, so they actually pumping.
That's a temporary thing.
They have like this temporary, so the
A sump
water is
pump.
that bad
Yeah.
that you have to install a sump pump in there?
I mean, I
That's
think
crazy.
when I came on the board, I don't know how many years ago, that was like a problem then.
I remember,
And
yeah,
we've been throwing fixes at it, but it's got to be dug down and see what's there and then repair it that way.
so I remember
Right.
when you and I first did the tour years ago, when we first formed the facility committee, and it was, Lisa Madison was the principal at the time, and talked about the water coming in on that wall
Mhm.
and even into the corner where the library is, but basically kind of chucked it up to being, water's coming off the eaves and has nowhere to go. Like the road back there has nowhere to go. And so it just finds its lowest point, which is right there. So is there any consideration to, try and grade or get,
Part of this, and I wish Ernest was still on board, in contact now, but stone's going to be put to try to send that water away, away from the building. But again, even just doing something to the exterior of the foundation and seal it would be an improvement, but it needs more than that. As I recall, Scott had an investigation going on into looking at changing the grading and doing something with that. But of course, when he left, it just got dropped and we couldn't find anything to even follow up on. So we've been aware, but now it's gotten to this point again where we just have to do something.
I think that was brought up in our last facilities meeting together with George and Corey, and Carol, potentially talking about not letting that kind of slip through the cracks again, that if we're gonna have work done, even if there's a plan and, we're just ahead of it, maybe somehow kind of keeping track of that paper trail, or at least like what was started, what was, initiated, what was planned, and,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I hope Ernest stays for a long time, but just in case he doesn't, this doesn't fall back on those guys again.
absolutely. Amanda?
Two questions, but kind of about the same thing, the leak downstairs. George, is there any consideration about the 6th grade window as well? I think, Carol, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the past, the 6th grade window has had a little bit of leaking as well. While they have someone there digging, is that something that should be included in the estimate?
I mean, there hasn't really been anything recently, but I think it's worth asking whoever does the work to look at it.
Yeah, it's the same setup, and I think it was quite some time ago that my daughter was in that room, but I remember something. This was pre-COVID. So while they're digging, if there is any sense in changing the drainage at that window as well, it might be worth it while they're at the site.
Are you talking about the septic?
No, I'm talking about the 6th grade window.
That's on the same side of the,
It's on the other side.
It's on the
On the other
opposite
side of the
side, but
foundation.
it's the same setup of like the basement window that kind of drops down and.
Yeah.
So just wondered if maybe that was something while they're there with equipment. Maybe it's not needed, but might be worth looking into. And then the second part of the question is the quote that you received in the dollar amount. Does that include like any interior repairs? I know downstairs they had to kind of do some wall work and move things around in the 4-5 room. Is that an additional quote that will come after, or is that part of repairing that as well?
I think we're responsible for moving anything. The school is, to get stuff out of the way.
To fix the wall.
Yeah, to fix
But yeah.
the wall.
They've got to see, well, they've seen this side, but the outside, and then it's going to be repaired.
Okay, so that would be an additional quote after the exterior work is done.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Let me talk to Ernest and qualify that.
Man, are you talking about like interiors for like sheetrock? I mean, like water damage that's been done,
think it's just-
or
Painted wall, right? Painted
Yeah, I think it's just water damage. Carol could better speak to, but I think there's some damage under that window. She would have more specifics.
Okay. Any other questions? Thanks, George.
Thank you.
Very in-depth and good luck with all the repairs. They're not small ones, that's for sure. Okay. We'll move on to board goals. Oh man, that's not in my material. Okay. So, in your packet, there's board goals, and this is just a quick check-in. And just like we did before, we kind of went through and just looked at all the goals and just did a quick comparison as how far it's completed. And let's see here. Hopefully everyone took the time to think about it. Okay. So under community engagement, previously we had, on number one, define who our stakeholders are. We had 100% completion on that. Two, assessive community methods are reaching them. I think we left off when we checked in last year, 50 to 60% complete. Let's see, I think, I looked at this and I thought, that, you know, we've moved forward in this as well, and maybe we're at, you know, 70 or 80% complete. And I'm not 100% sure if there's anything more we could do on this either, so. And that's where this is a board discussion, so folks should weigh in on where you think we're at on this, and we can come to some kind of quick consensus on each of these.
I would agree that we are at 70 to 80% on that. I think we could still do a better job trying to reach people with our MailChimp. And I also think we could do a better job maybe with flyers and postings at like the post office or town hall or schools or local stores. I think we're doing a much better job getting our minutes and agendas out there, but I don't know that we're really engaging. Like we're giving information, but engagement is two-sided. So attending more events, being more present, coming to the schools, like the parent conferences that we just had, you know, I'm sure Carol and Corey both would have let us have a table up there and be present and be a face, and maybe we get a name tag, and maybe there's people that say, Amanda Whedon, who's she? I've never seen her face. And so I don't think we're really doing a good job getting out there. I think we're doing a good job sending messages.
Okay. So if we were to put this to like maybe instead of a range, a specific number, would you say 70, 75 or 80?
Maybe 75.
Anyone else? I mean, I think that's fair, and that's a really good point. All right. No objection to that?
I'd go 80, that'd be minus.
80.
Amanda, did you have an idea of like how many parents or caregivers we've captured in those email chimps? I'm not sure. Like, I know it's probably like, I don't know, it's privacy, but I just wonder, like, are there Middletown families that I could catch, like, you know, on the walk down or the walk up?
Probably,
You
yeah.
know, are,
Yeah.
You know, are there?
I don't have a specific number. That's something I could try to look at and get for you, but I would say every single family you see, hey, are you receiving our email?
Okay.
Because maybe they have a, you know, personal email address that they signed up with and they forgot and they don't check it and they're like, oh shoot, I should have put this email address instead, or I don't know. Like there's still people we're not reaching, and I don't think we can over ask.
Okay.
I mean, I think if we're grading ourselves, I think we need to take into account MailChimp effort. We also had the school consolidation, open forums. I think we're doing a good job here. So I would skew towards
Okay.
80 plus.
All right. So
Wouldn't go to a C. We'll go
Okay.
80, B minus up.
I mean, we could do 1, 2, 3, 4 as well, but that would really be okay. So 75, 80%,
Yes.
80%. Okay. Anyone object? All right, I'm fine with that. I was gonna say 79.999, but we'll just go 80. All right, 3, tap into, known best ways to reach each stakeholder. I think we're at 50% on that. You know, I looked at that and I thought, you know, especially with MailChimp, I think we're definitely at 80% on that. But, you know, what do other folks think?
I would agree. We're close to 80 on that.
Anyone else? Anyone object?
We've also done mailings too, right?
Yeah, I think, when we last checked in on this, we hadn't even done the MailChimp, you know. I don't even think we had started talking about it.
Yeah, so.
So, we've definitely made, a huge jump. And there's potential for some other stuff too.
I think the only feedback that I got maybe last special meeting is that we didn't kind of like maybe shout it out to the families and community members that we would have normally on that MailChimp. I think, Amanda, we even talked about it. So I know that sometimes that's kind of, you know, hey, Eric emails us, are you guys free next Tuesday or something? But it was something that I kind of had to get the word out because it wasn't in that typical mailing, that email, which you said, you know, we should try to just do once a month, which I thought was fine. That was just feedback that I got from some parents that.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up at another community engagement discussion just to decide if, when we have a special meeting, if that's something that doesn't need board approval to just include a meeting link and an agenda. It is on my radar.
Okay. Well, that's stuff that we can address on next month's agenda for community engagement. But, okay, so, yeah, 80%. Any objection? Okay, just making sure. All right, moving on. B1, deeper dive into shared resources. I think we're at 1% on that. I don't know about this one. My opinion, I'm not sure we've moved anywhere on this. And,
I would
No.
maybe move us to, George said that they are looking at like the contracts and maybe sharing things within the SU. So I'd give us at least 10. We took a step.
okay.
We started looking at things. We just haven't made changes. Personally, that's my opinion.
Yeah, my first thought was, is it possible to go backwards? We talked about it a little bit last year, but really didn't follow through with.
Well, I mean, also when we didn't have a maintenance director, our principals have reached out to other people in Greater Rutland for advice. I think that counts for something.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's
There
right.
was a lot
And
of-
Yeah. And then, and then even Lisa Madison's here.
Yeah, so there's an awareness that some resources are available and we'd like more, so.
And we're sharing a substitute and teachers are working together between the schools.
Okay. All right.
25?
25? Why it's a board discussion. Okay. Anyone else? 25%? All right. I think that's fair. Okay. Explore consolidation models. I said 100% on this because we did all this. I mean, we explored it, and at least in regards to looking at the consolidation aspect, we did what we set out we're going to do. So, everyone fine with that?
Yep.
Okay. Set timeline for process and future visioning. We did set like a consolidation timeline originally, which was kind of like a working document. The timeline didn't really encompass like a final phase, but that's because we didn't know where we're going to be at with consolidation. So, you know, from the initial timeline, you know, it just kind of ended with consolidation. So I was a little, you know, a little on the fence on this one. I think, you know, I thought maybe that we went from 25 to maybe 45% and that, you know, what exactly is, you know, the future visioning. So, but yeah. Thoughts, suggestions? Oh. All right. No one? I said 45%.
I'm good with 45.
I would say, you know, if there's any suggestions or objections, like speak up because this just kind of puts into perspective where we're at on this, honestly. So we don't have to spend a whole lot of time. Continue to have forums and community input. You know, I think we did some forums. So I thought 75% because I think there's still room for that. So
Oh, I think we're gonna need to have some more community
yeah,
forums.
yeah,
Yep.
that's why I was thinking 75. But we're moved in that direction.
Yeah, so decide on when and why.
Yeah,
think-
we did that. We did that when we decided to have the forums and why, when we set like the
Consolidation.
yeah, when we
But now, well, maybe it's consolidation.
Yeah, I just wonder about changing the statement over there because I think this was more specific to the consolidation forum, but I think now we need to continue to have community forums going forward for obvious reasons. So maybe we're, 75% done with the community forum consolidation piece or consolidation community forum piece. But maybe only 50% done with the other. I just wonder if like it's two separate parts. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, well, I think this was specific just to the consolidation aspect.
Right.
Uh,
But can we just change that statement or add a little amendment that says maybe we're 75% done with the consolidation community forums, but we are 0% done with necessary legislation forums that may be upcoming.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to, tie our senators and our representatives in on that one.
But maybe our consolidation is just a different, from a different view, a different type of consolidation because.
Right.
Well, things we're talking about with Meadowy, things we're looking at from state level, looking down on us. Those are both consolidation of one sort or another.
I mean, don't forget, this is all under the header of fiscal responsibility. I think we were looking, before all this stuff going on now, we were looking at ways to be more efficient. So it's kind of a disconnect with what's going on in Montpelier and what this was intended to be.
Yeah, but
So-
our first statement with fiscal responsibility was to be fiscally responsible by focusing on student needs and shared resources with effective monitoring of spending and transparent community dialogue. But I think, I don't know.
We initiated this, no one in Montpelier did.
Right.
So if we need to add something for that, we should add something.
Yeah.
So as far as this goes, we're 75% or more.
I mean, we could talk about the need at another meeting on, you know, what the need to have like other community forums. You know, because I know other, you know, districts are having community forums around the legislation, but they're having community forums about the legislation that is currently in place, and then the next week it changes.
Right.
But so it's really kind of hard. I think we would need to have a further discussion on, you know, what would be the point, why. But the way this is written, and, you know, again, if there's always, you know, this is subject to change, we could change it, but it is based off of the consolidation discussions that we had. And so, and then, you know,
Could we just add a number 6 and call it something along the lines of exploration, or not even exploration, understanding and information sharing of legislative changes?
Oh, go ahead. How about this? Because it says, when we first talked about this, it wasn't, when you look at the goal, continue to have forums for community input. That goal was not centralized around consolidation until we started having consolidation discussions. So we could say that for this progress check-in, that we are at 75% for consolidation, community forums for input, right? But the board will continue to discuss the potential for community forums around other community forums as needed, because it is about community forums. So it's not specific. So if we're talking about this now, that maybe we should shift and we should have another conversation about other community forums, we just take note of that, and that's part of our progress monitoring of this goal. So,
That makes sense.
okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. I just think it's important that we say something to the continuation. So I'm fine with that wording.
All right. All right, number 5, explore opportunities for high quality student experience.
50%.
Okay.
I think we explored and found we could not afford at the time, but I think we can continue to explore affordable options.
Okay. So you said 50%, you said what?
I feel like 50% because we did explore options at budget time.
Okay.
But at that current time of discussion, it wasn't fiscally responsible to put it in our budget. But I think we should continue to explore, and if we have the opportunity, add it in.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. On to student preparedness, preparation for choice information, community engagement. I think this is 100% because this was completed, right? Yeah. We had the student, and correct me if I'm wrong.
We did. I think it's something, I agree that it's 100% complete for this one time, but is there a statement that could be made to encourage it to happen annually if possible? Because it's a different group of kids each year.
All right. Anyone object to that?
No,
Okay.
I thought that was the intent.
Yeah.
Overall.
Board level expectations and understanding of the assessments. See, I had 50% on this because we have been getting updates on assessments. And I say 50 because we're just starting to look at VIT cap, which is something that's been out of administrative control, just getting that information, from what I understand. So, and I think that, as we review and see the assessments, more frequently, there's better understanding that, takes place. All right. So any thoughts on that? Okay. And then set board calendar, that was like 100%. We do that annually. And then what was the last one? Oh, board level monitoring of trends and test scores, progress and programs. Yeah, same thing. I mean, it's kind of, as far as assessment and outcome monitoring. Actually missed that one before, but so.
I think this one was more about the action plan following the review of the scores, and then the other one was more about reviewing the scores and understanding them. So I would say we're at least 50% done with this one. I feel like both principals have been pretty informative with their plans and progress that we've made with the information we've received so far.
Okay. Is that fair for everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. That concludes that. And it just kind of shows where we're at on the goals. Okay, on to Finance Committee. So we talked last month about potentially having a Finance Committee. Hopefully everyone had a chance to think about that and weigh in, and we can decide how we want to, and if we want to, have a committee. You know, first thing would be, you know, what's the point of the committee? What's the charge of the committee? You know, Amanda, I don't know if you had.
Yeah. I did. So the VSBA has the board committee's planning worksheet. So I kind of just reviewed that and briefly came up with my thoughts. I don't know if you want me to go over like each bullet, Eric, or just one at a time.
Well, I think before we do, I think, you know, I'd just like to get, you know, just a consensus of if, you know, because this kind of work plan just kind of, I think it dials down the committee, but I'd just like to hear from folks if there's a need for the finance committee. So we did talk about it, and it was a bit of an extended conversation. Yeah, I think that's where we're at, and you know, obviously, you know, it'd probably be good to at least understand a lot of the finances that are involved, but not get like down into, I guess, I don't know, the day-to-day
Right.
finances, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
And if we did have a committee, when would this committee meet and all that stuff? So, you know, that's another thing. I mean, I know everyone's dying to have another meeting to go to. So,
I would think that the purpose and the reason that we should have a finance committee would just be to better understand the finances as a board in an effort to achieve our board goal of fiscal responsibility. We set it as a board goal. We are making progress, but overall, I don't think we really have a good grasp on our finances. So if we tasked a couple of people to really understand that better and report back to the board, maybe quarterly. I don't think it needs to be a monthly conversation. And then come budget time, we would have more information to make necessary decisions, and which could even follow through with, that other goal of our student outcomes. If the finance committee finds like, hey, maybe we can afford to look at offering a language, or whatever it might be, it could be anything, right? But I think it's useful to have a couple of people that can really focus on that, because 7 of us obviously can't do it in a meeting once a month all the time successfully, in my opinion. I think it needs more attention. And I would then add that it would strictly be for data collection. The committee would just collect data, review data, and in the instance that they felt there was enough data that deserved and required a board discussion, then they would come to the board with that data to have a discussion. Wouldn't be to sit and nitpick and say, oh, Carol bought expo markers and Corey bought too much paper. None of that. That wouldn't be useful, right? But to understand what we are spending and what money we might have that we could spend more efficiently, I think we need to have a better understanding of areas that we can add to as well, and understand the need.
So I know some other boards that do have finance committees. Their committees will basically review warrants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they go through and they'll look at the warrants, and then they just to review. It's just like a financial review, right? And if there's any questions, they're answered. And then it comes back to the board, and then and then the board will approve those finances. I think we do things differently, where the warrants are available to review, and then they come to a meeting for approval. But I think that if we're going to look at finances, right, and would it be in that same structure, whereas we're just reviewing the warrants and just basically come to the board and say, yeah, we reviewed these warrants and we approve them, so I don't know, like, I don't know what other finances we'd be digging down in, other than when you look at the warrants and stuff that come in your email, right, or in your materials. I think Lewis in the past has provided a breakdown of those, I guess what you would call like the codes and stuff like that on that. I don't know. To me, it's just something that I didn't have time to learn, but is it necessary? So I don't know. I think, as far as fiscal responsibility and understanding the finances and what actually goes into it, I would support it, because I don't know who else here has, looked at all the invoices and associated with the warrants, and I don't know. I'm starting to ramble, so.
I think it would also give us area of potential savings if we could do things together, but it would also help us to understand, I don't know, just everything as a whole. But I think it's important to know that I don't want anybody in the room or listening to this later to think that we're out there scrutinizing, like, oh, you spent $9.99 and you were only supposed to spend $9.50. Like, not that, just understanding the money and knowing if there's more money needed. Because how many times do we pass a budget and then have a conversation and be like, wow, we really should have had another $40,000 there. Or, wow, we really should have put more money in this line and less in that line, right? Like it comes up sometimes in our years where we just didn't have the information because we didn't research it deep enough to really understand where we should have moved money. And I think we could do a better job understanding and preparing all of our spending.
Okay. Anyone else? Thoughts?
I feel it's duplication.
It's what?
It's duplication.
Duplication?
Yeah, I don't see it as more than personally informative. So I don't think a committee is necessary. I think when we have a question concerning something in a warrant, we ask Louis or we ask our administrators, Chris. I'm not seeing what our role as board members would be if we were to go beyond that.
Gotcha.
Do you feel, Meredith, that there's times, and I'm not like putting you on the spot because I know that it happens to me, so I'm just asking if maybe you feel it happens to you too, but do you feel like there's times maybe at the end of a meeting where you're like, oh crap, I didn't notice that in the warrant, or I was going to ask that, or I reviewed it too quickly, or I just didn't have time to review it as in depth as I wanted because life got in the way and I received it on Friday and we met on Wednesday and it was a weekend and then practice. So a committee would task a group of people to be responsible for that research and forming those questions, if there are any.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, so what's today? Wednesday? I think it was last week. I emailed Louis because there were warrants for Wellsprings and GRCSU I had questions on. And I guess my question is, and maybe it's a question for Chris, is that, is it, if we have questions about any of the financial warrants, you know, and any of the items on there, even the financial reports, right? It's not an issue to contact him for any of these questions, right?
Just receive emails all the time from board members about questions about warrants or things they've seen, so.
Yeah. And
Board members have a right to ask questions about those things, just a better understanding of budgeting and what's going on.
yeah. Okay. I just want to clarify because I didn't know, like, in terms of like, I don't know, just being a pain in the butt, asking a bunch of questions. But I mean, I have the same mindset. Like I don't, anytime I have a question, I just ask. But my point was that he provided a response that I was shocked. Like I was like, oh wow, like I had no idea. But he had a full explanation for what I was asking about. So I think if that process still works and it's not, you know, a problem, I guess from another aspect of, you know, knowing what's in the warrants and where they come from, you know, I would also be happy to sit down with anyone and go through warrants because when you sit down and look through the invoices and stuff, it really changes your perspective of how everything's done. And you're not just looking at numbers on a piece of paper, but yeah.
So
I personally think it's bigger than the warrants. I think the warrants are just a little piece. I think it's just really understanding our need and our spending and our areas for potentially needing to increase line items or maybe decrease. But I don't know that. I think reviewing the warrants is just a small piece. I think understanding the spending, and like you said, I mean, I reach out to Louis a lot too with questions. And and he will answer them, but
Is,
a finance committee would also give a place on the agenda, maybe every 3 months, for them to report publicly, hey, here's the understanding. This is why we spend this. This is why maybe we should spend more. This is why maybe we should look at this instead. It gives us that opportunity for conversation rather than, oh, here's a draft budget. What were we supposed to remember all year?
Yeah.
is there any kind of VSBA training we could get in finance? If that's one of your goals, to have a better understanding, is there someplace we could get that training?
I guess I'm just trying to understand decision-making or just understand.
I'm hearing decision-making and potential saving.
You know, a board approves a budget and then gives Carol, Corey, myself, those others the authority to operate within that budget, make decisions. And that's our responsibility. Is so it's no different than, you know, instead of teachers or FTEs, if the board approves, say, 20 FTEs, Carol and Corey have the authority to use those FTEs as they see fit. It really is up to the board to tell them how to use those FTEs. And I think it's where, if the board approves the budgets, is if Carol, Corey are operating within that budget, they have every right to, the board could start, ask a question about expenditures or the rationale behind that. But decision-making is a different, that's where it gets a little bit different. And I think that's just where an understanding of, just about a contract, about why, and they can explain that contract. It's great. That's the, fiscal responsibility. That's over to governance, to oversight. But I just, my concern always is just around the decision-making where, kind of gets in the weeds a little bit.
Yeah, and I was going to say, yeah, in terms of the budgeting process, we have a pretty extensive budgeting process that starts in the fall, and that's where a lot of those concerns and questions should come up around that. So just really quick, I guess just to gauge people's thoughts, yes, no on a committee.
I think I would support maybe the idea, Amanda, like if finance committee was looking at a potential surplus for next year, maybe diving in, however we're capable of doing that, to see maybe where that surplus could be best used in the next year. Maybe things we cut in the previous year, but I'm just wondering, like, was your idea for the finance committee to eventually make recommendations to the board with your findings?
Well, the committee would report to the board. That would be the role of a committee, would be to collect the data and report to the board. So the decision would have to be whatever data they're collecting. The big reason that I thought we should have a finance committee, I guess two things. One, we used to have one, and I don't think it did a very good job because it wasn't well organized. I think we need it more organized. And two, like, we have a board goal that says to be fiscally responsible by focusing on student needs and shared resources with effective monitoring of spending and transparent community dialogue. So I don't see the harm in a small group of people helping to get that goal to 100% all the way across, and not to contact the admin or anybody and say, hey, you can't spend that, we're going to cut that. But to, like you said, like, if there's a surplus or if there's a need or if there's an area that we should put more money into, I don't think there's any harm in collecting financial information throughout a school year to better build an upcoming budget and better understand and support what we're currently doing. Because if you're looking at a next budget and somebody's like, well, why are we spending that much money on technology? Well, maybe we find, and I'm making this up, right? But maybe we find in our research, well, hey, it's actually because it costs X number of dollars to, teach our kids with these programs that we're using, which, yes, is true. But do we understand that without looking into it? No. And I just think we could do a better job seeing how we could better spend the money we have upcoming, not the current year, not coming in March and saying, don't spend any more money in April, but collecting information so that as we build another budget, it's good. I don't, if nobody likes the idea, nobody likes the idea, but I think it's something worth giving some attention to.
Okay.
And-
All right. Yeah, it makes sense, but, all right. So any other discussion on this? All right. So, yeah, I mean, it, if, I'm gonna move us on because I think I had 10 minutes for this conversation and we're over it, but, unless, anyone else has something to add,
I would make a motion, we form a finance committee. And it
Okay.
would consist of 3 members. Admin can attend if they choose, but would not be required to give their evenings away.
all right.
Can I just add a question? How are you going to get the answers then if you don't have admin attending?
We can create the questions and ask them,
It would be
but not force.
time consuming for admin to actually. Like I said, I just find that interesting that you want to have a meeting where you get answers, but then you don't invite them to that discussion.
No, I didn't say don't invite them. Obviously invite them,
Be part of
but
that.
don't
They're part of the
require, like, if they can't make it, I don't want to, it was brought up that everyone has a lot of meetings, right? So if they can't attend every one, then we can ask them the question or form the question.
If the board chooses you to do the same thing you do with facility, you would have it prior to a regular scheduled board meeting, which the Corey and Carol should be at that. I should be there as well. But I think it's important for saying that to develop a better understanding that you have individuals who have intimate working knowledge of the budget and can answer all those questions there. But I think not to have Carol and Corey there and to have a conversation about budget and making decisions about adding lines, decreasing lines. That's concerning.
Did you have any other board members in mind that are on, you think would be on this committee with you?
I mean, Mary and I had a conversation previously. And then I didn't have any other, I'm not gonna, hey, George, you're the third, like.
If I can suggest, if you could do with whomever you want from the board, do a little bit of research and come up with some examples of potential savings or changes in the budget so that we have a better understanding of what you're looking at. Because as I see it, our big ticket items like salary and healthcare are totally out of our hands. There's
Right.
nothing much we can do about it. So it's all the other stuff going through the warrants that we have a better control on. And no one here would say we're not interested in cost savings or potentially opening up money for use with educating our kids better. But if you could come up with a couple of examples, I think that would help the board make up their mind.
And, understanding and oversight, I think, is pretty much would be the point of the committee. The budgetary aspect, we have a whole budget process. And so you could look at finances now, they're completely changed by the year end.
Mhm.
So, I don't see how a finance committee is going to assist with any of that, but
I'm not saying form a committee, but
yeah.
come up with something a little more concrete as to what you would do. And I still don't know exactly what the charge is for this committee. So without that or with something more concrete, I couldn't support it.
Right. Anyone else who hasn't spoke on this yet? Otherwise, I'm going to call the question, because Manna did make a motion to form a committee. So, yeah. So, all right. All right, none. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay or raise your hand.
Nay.
I just don't know what the third person's gonna be. So I'm like,
Yes, right. Yeah.
it's like, the motion has three people in it. I'm all for if you two wanna have a committee, but I don't wanna be, I don't wanna.
Well, that's not the question. I mean, the fact that you have a three-person committee is basically so you don't have a quorum. So, and it's an odd number, but, yeah,
Can I abstain? You already have two nays. I'll say nay.
And again, if you brought this up at another meeting with some more information, I could change my mind. Right now, I'm not sure what we're going to get out of it.
Fair. I'll just keep asking lots of questions.
there you go. All right, motion failed. All right, move on to policy. We have E17 and H4. So these were warned and reviewed back in February. So it's nothing new. So I look for a motion to adopt these.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by George. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And it was an aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, I screwed up. I completely skipped over VT cap data. So, so I don't know if we're going to go back and look at that really quick. And it was in the packet, so everyone should have reviewed it. I would say if there's anything special you want to add to the presentation for context or anything, I mean, for some folks, like those who were at the GRCSU meeting last week have already seen the cap data before, and it's still really confusing.
Right.
So, you know, maybe just a quick summary of, you know, it. Yeah. And then we are going to talk about the class data in executive session. So,
There's supposed to be another public.
yes, but we're, yeah, right now we're,
Right.
we kind of skip back up. So,
Share slides. Again, I'm asking about the report, but.
yeah, those
You'll have
are,
to let me know which slides you want to. It's the presentation was in the board resource folder.
That one, share. So the one that's in the board resources has class level data
So I just want
blocked out. Yes, that has class level data blocked out. So,
okay.
I don't know, the pieces of that can be shared.
which slide would you like to begin with?
I don't know. I mean, how much of work you can blow on? It's kind of dense. A lot to it. I guess very quick overview of the big cap. It's a summative assessment across the state of Vermont. It's students third grade through ninth grade. In the areas of ELA and math, and then it is given to grades 5, 8, 11 in the content area of science. The assessment is aligned with the core state standards, which cover ELA and math, and then the NGSS or Next Gen Science standards. The data that we have tonight is from the spring of 2024, so it is a year old at this point. And it would have been our second year administering the bid cap to students from the state. There is a whole bunch of information about scaled scores that you can go in and read. I do think the performance level, the way that this is scored, I mean, students are given a scaled score, but then they're also scaled on a level 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is oftentimes what we're looking at. We're looking for students to be at a level 3 and a level 4. And these give different descriptions of those. But we would consider a level 3 or above as at or above proficiency, similar to our proficiency-based grading expectations. The VITCAP also generates individual student reports, which are sent home to parents. We typically send those home in the fall, a lot of times in conjunction with parent-teacher conferences, because it gives parents that opportunity to ask questions about the report teachers in a one-to-one setting. You have the different reporting categories. So in ELA, the assessment will report out on literary text, informational text, and writing. Students do have a writing prompt. Within science, they're looking at physical sciences, life sciences, and space sciences. And then in math, it depends on the grade level, what the different concepts are. So the slides that follow are our school-wide scores. It's not looking at particular grade levels. Anything that falls under 11 students is not public knowledge. So we report out at the school because it allows us those numbers greater than 11. So looking at the assessment, I think kind of the neat one is over on the right for each of these reports that you're seeing. You can see where we scored in 2023, which is the first year we took the assessment, compared to last year, 2024. And so you can see that growth from year 1 to year 2. So you would have at Middletown, I can't read with my glasses on these days. So in Middletown, in ELA, we had 44% of our students who were meeting or exceeding expectations in ELA last year. We do not have a comparison to the state, but you can see in 2023 that we fell below the state average. Going to the next slide, you have our math results. Math is an area that we've identified is a challenge for us. We only had 19% of our students last year who met or exceeded proficiency as measured by the VITCAP. And you can see from 2023 to 2024, there was very little growth. And then finally, you have science. And so we have 25% of our students met or exceeded on science. And you can see that growth from one year to another.
Yeah, and then in Wells, our ELA scores remained somewhat consistent. We actually had a 2% drop last year. In math, we had a significant drop from 23 to 24. We went from 14% to 2%, or 3%, sorry. And then our science scores as well went from 20% to 10%.
So Carol and I took some time and just kind of made some observations, really areas that we're focusing on. A lot of times as we're sort of entering our continuous improvement plan planning, this is data that we consider when we look at what we want to set as goals for next year. So looking at Middletown specifically, we did see an increase in students who were achieving a 3 or a 4 in the areas of ELA and science. However, we sort of remained pretty even in those students who were achieving a 3 or 4 in math. That despite seeing some growth from year to year, we were below the state average in that first year, and we would like to not be below the state average. We'd like to be at least at or above the state average. One of the things that I've really dug into with my staff this year with this data is the writing piece. It is not reported out. You have to dig into individual student reports to pull out the data. But some of what we were able to pull out was within the writing section in session 2 of ELA, students have an essay that they're supposed to, be writing. They're given some pieces of text that they have to read, and then they have to write an essay using evidence from those texts. And so we had 36% of our students in grades 3 to 6 who earned a 3 or a 4 out of 4 possible points. And we had 23% of our students who did not even attempt the essay. So for us, writing is a big portion. That while we certainly look at the essay portion, writing is evident throughout the entire ELA portion, which shortens responses. And so we have had a discussion in this class that is a big area that we'd like to focus on next year, is improving our writing scores, not just in essay, but in short answer response and writing across the curriculum. So it's a goal that collectively, regardless of what content area you teach, you can be working to move this forward.
And I would say, actually, we've started to really talk about the writing component as well. And ensuring that our students are attempting to do the essay, because it is something that you kind of have to watch for as they are taking the test. Our ELA scores overall stayed relatively consistent, but still are below state average. I think the biggest area that we've talked about is math is a huge concern for us. And we have started to do some things to improve math. And I think one of the things we're really hoping is that the new programming that we have coming in is really going to be a huge help to us. So, and science, again, showed it down. So, all areas that we're just looking to look at.
Yeah, I have a question. When you look at the test results, it says percent level 3 over level 4 over time. So what exactly does that mean? Like, what about?
I think they're saying it's a percentage of students who are achieving a level 3 or 4. I think that's how they're using that.
Right. But what about level 1 or level 2 students? Like, are there different levels for students who test, right? Isn't that how I'm reading this when you go up?
I think if you're looking at the science results, my interpretation is like for Wells, like 90% students per 1 or
What's that?
90%. Like if you're looking at the Wells science test results, 10% for in 3 and 4, and my interpretation is 90 is in that 1 or 2 bucket.
Right.
Okay.
We could break it out as we look with staff. You know, we kind of get into that nitty gritty of, you know, where exactly are students falling.
Okay. I just thought it was like the test results were just showing, like, I don't know, again, like this is all new. So trying to wrap my head around all of it. But Amanda?
When was this test given?
So this test is given in the spring. So like this year, the window opened the 2nd of March, and most is actually while we're on April vacation, followed by 1 week of makeups. So our testing window is typically mid-March through April. And it would have been similar last year.
Any other questions on this this data?
I know this is kind of off topic, but just really quickly, I jumped out on the Slate Valley school board meeting, I think in March, and principal had jumped in and said, you know, just so you know, our 3rd grade classroom really was so sick of being on the computers, and I had a great idea of printing out Lexia. And so I just think that maybe that's something that maybe potentially we can think about down the line, but I just thought it was interesting that that she was getting that feedback from that grade level, and that they were actually printing out those Lexia ELA course things and doing them right on, you know, pen and paper again. So just thought it was interesting.
When will we see the results that are the tests that are happening?
State.
Next, I was going to say next spring.
The individual reports. Our goal when we met with Secretary Saunders, we asked her that they publish these or much sooner. Like Carol Corey will have the results probably August. To take a look at its individual reports. And I think that we're waiting for the class reports. We can start really looking at trends and looking at gaps and things. And she understands that we need this information in order for these tests really to be valid in terms of, usable feedback. We need this information with they dig it, so the classroom teacher is not able to take a look at this information until say October, November. Does put them at a severe disadvantage if they're looking at how to adjust it, to address some of these, strengths, some of the areas of concern. So that was the whole, and I remember years ago when we moved from paper-based to computer-based tests, that was the selling point that they made, and this is back in the years ago, as well, was you'll get these results back right. That's, hopefully annual score, they'll get it back right away, and you'll have the summer to look at the data, have just interact with this. So we, that is our goal, is to get this back. We are kind of the way.
Okay. Oh, did you have a question or anything? Oh, I thought I heard.
No, just say thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. All right. So, if nobody has any other questions, thank you. I'm sure as we see more of this data, it'll, I don't know, be easier to understand. But I do like the, the analysis at the end, just like the FastBridge data. But okay, so before we move into executive session, no, there is no second public comment on there. So we are going to move into executive session for academic records. So I'll make a motion that we move into executive session for the review of academic records at 8:12. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. An executive session. There we go. All right. Okay, cool. All right, we are out of executive session by consensus at 8:42. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mary. May 14th. Regular meeting. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.